deny yourself, take up the cross, and follow him. I don't get to carry the cross and something else. Listen, your life, when you claim Christ, has to reflect Christ. And you want to live your best life and start chasing after Jesus. That's funny. Man, welcome to church. We are so glad that you're here. There was a nun, and she was sleepwalking, and she was continually sleepwalking. And one night, as she was sleepwalking, she got outside, and she ended up walking down the road. And as she was walking down the road, there were these two guys that were standing there, and one of them just slapped the other one and just said, "Hey, look, a Roman Catholic." Come on, you'll get it. Think about it. Think about it. That's a good one. We are in Mark chapter 8 through 12 this week, and it's interesting how, as I'm reading, God's connecting stories together in ways that I really haven't caught before. And this week, what I want to talk about is there's a story in Mark chapter 6 of Jesus feeding the 5,000. And then in Mark chapter 8, in the early part, there's another story of Jesus feeding 4,000. And then where I want us to pick up is right here in Mark chapter 8, verse 14. And it says this, "But the disciples had forgotten to bring food. They had only one loaf of bread with them in the boat. And as they were crossing the lake, Jesus warned them, 'Watch out. Beware of the yeast of the Pharisees and Herod.' At this, they began to argue with each other because they hadn't brought any bread. Jesus knew what they were saying. And he said, 'Why are you arguing that we have no bread?' And he said, 'Do you not understand even yet?' And he said, 'Are your hearts too hard to take it in?' And he says, 'You have eyes, can't you see?' He says, 'You have ears, can't you hear?' And he says, 'Don't you remember anything at all?' He said, when I fed the 5,000 with 5 loaves, how many baskets of leftovers did you pick up afterwards?' And they said, 12. And he said, when I fed the 4,000, 7 loaves, how many baskets after did you pick up?' And they said, 7. And he said, 'Don't you understand yet?'" Isn't it interesting that the disciples are right here? Jesus had just finished in Mark chapter 6 feeding 5,000. That's just men, estimated to be about 20,000 people. And then in Mark chapter 8, 4,000 men, estimated to be somewhere around 15,000. None of them had food. They were all out there. The same thing occurred both times. The disciples are like, they don't have any food. We need to do something. Jesus is like, what do we have? Let's use that. And he takes what they have, breaks it, and then he ends up filling 12 baskets full of leftovers. And then the same thing happens in Mark chapter 8. They're like, hey, they're hungry. What do we need to do? And he's like, what do we have? So they bring him loaves and fish. He breaks it. 7 baskets left over. Jesus is now in the boat. They're crossing over. And Jesus begins to talk to the disciples. And he's like, hey, I want you to be really careful. Man, these Pharisees are scary. Herod's scary. And so y'all need to be really careful of the yeast that is within them. Because listen, just a little yeast can change everything. And so you need to be really careful about what they're teaching, about what they're saying, about how you approach them, how you handle them. And Jesus is standing in the boat and he's talking to them. And here's what's happening with the disciples. Squirrel! Squirrel! Jesus goes, hey, remember the yeast? And all of a sudden they go, oh, yeast, bread. We don't have any. Dadgummit. And now all of a sudden, instead of paying attention to what Jesus is saying, all of a sudden they're focused on bread. Can you imagine? You have Jesus in front of you. Jesus is standing right there. And he's like, guys, listen, I'm going to teach you for just a minute, just the 12 of you. This is an incredible opportunity. Okay, I'm locked in. And then all of a sudden, yeast, and they're like, bread, 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 bread. And he's like, what are you doing? Why are you not listening to me? But isn't that what happens to us a lot of times? I see it every Sunday. And so I stand up here and preach, but there's also other things that go on in my mind. I don't know how, but there's other things, like I'm watching and all of a sudden, I'll be speaking and a baby will start crying and here's what happens. Squirrel. Everybody just kind of starts staring at that baby. I'm like, dadgummit, get them back, get them back. And you can just see it. Somebody stands up, go to the bathroom, and guess what? Everybody's like, and just watches them. They're going to the bathroom. And they just stand there and they just watch it. And everybody, it's so easily distracted. And we do the same things as the disciples. It's funny. Because instead of just locking in and paying attention to what God wants to say, we chase squirrels all the time. We're just like, and we just get so easily distracted. And so today I want to talk about 3 things that really I see in this passage. The first one is this, that what I just said, don't be distracted. And it says this, at this, they began to argue because they hadn't brought any bread. The interesting thing is, oftentimes the loudest room that you and I will enter is the room that's in between our ears. Have you ever noticed that? Day's over, ready to lay down. You get everything done that you need to get done before bed. Take your shower. You go, you crawl in bed, turn the lights off, turn the TV off, turn the noise machine on or the fan on or whatever it is, and you crawl into bed. Man, it just feels great. The pillow feels great. The mattress feels like everything just is perfect. The sheets are clean. You take your phone, you plug it in, you lay it next to you, and you just lay down. And you're just like, oh, did I shut the garage? Did I lock the front door? Did I pay the electric bill? Again, what events do the kids have tomorrow? We got games, we got all this. What do I have to do at work? And instead of being able to lay down and literally do nothing, what do? We start chasing squirrels in our mind. And we just start running after them. Man, I remember that conversation I had back in 2009. Why did I ever say that? Gosh, and you're like, what are we doing? Why are we chasing these squirrels like this? And then you get up the next day and you're just like, I'm so tired, I barely slept. Like, no kidding. Because you're thinking about everything under the sun. Like you're sitting there and you're just laying there and you're just like, did I turn the water off in the bath? Is it fixing to flood in here? It's getting cold outside. Did I take care of the pool? My car, probably need to change the oil in my car. The tires, I was driving and they felt a little rough. And we just sit and we just let all this noise in between our ears just begin to take place. And we never shut it off. We leave it on the whole time. It's kind of like a ceiling fan. You go flip a ceiling fan on and that thing just, we had one that was not installed very well. And so it went like this. just that rod hanging out of the ceiling. Man, it was moving everywhere, made so much noise, but you slept like a baby. Like, I'm a noise guy. Like, I want a big box fan that rattles and is old and just makes a ton of noise and everything like that. And I want the room dark. And I just, like a 747 landing in the bedroom, I'll be out like a light. And so that thing was awesome. But here's the thing. If you just let that thing run and you never turn it off, and it just goes and goes and goes and goes and goes, eventually what's going to happen is that motor is going to burn up and it's going to wear out and it's going to become pretty useless. See, I think part of the problem is this: spiritually, mentally, we're not physically worn out. Like, we haven't physically exhausted ourselves. But what we've done is we've never turned the motor off in our mind. We just let it run. And it's just going and going and going and going. And you're like, squirrel, 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 squirrel. You can't lock in. You go to try and have a conversation with somebody, and guess what? You're standing there and you're like, okay. What is that cologne they're wearing? I wonder if I can get a little closer. You kind of get that close talk going on. Then you got your nose on their neck and you're like, trying to get a whiff of it and stuff. And they're like, what is happening? And but you can't even have conversations. You get so distracted so easily. And you can't even talk. Like, you want to go into, a meeting and everything like that. And then you come out of it and you're like, I just spent an hour and I have no clue what we talked about. But I know I have a to-do list and I got to get that stuff done. And we just let this stuff go and we never turn it off. And that fan in our mind just runs and runs and runs. And we are constantly waking up exhausted and we don't know why. And we're just like, what is going on? What is happening? Why am I always drained? Why can I not get ahead? I feel like I got to suck down 19 Red Bulls just to get going and just to stay energized. And so I'm constantly just coffee, Red Bull, and then you're like, "Argh," and then you never can turn it off. And so then it's just running. And so here's the thing. The loudest room is between our ears, but here's the thing. Overthinking also creates problems that don't exist. Overthink. How many of you have ever sent a text? And when you send the text, you hit send. Doesn't say, hey, what are you up to? What are you doing tonight? You want to go get dinner? And then all of a sudden, crickets. Just nothing. Hour later, you're looking. Then all of a sudden, you start thinking, are they mad at me? Did I say something that I wasn't supposed to? Did I do something to make them mad? 2 hours go by. They don't want to respond, then I don't want to be friends. Like, if they want to treat me like this, if they want to act like this, then I'm not going to talk to them. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I don't know why they're not. I didn't do anything. Like, I haven't made them mad. Like, I'm fine. I don't know why they're not responding. And then all of a sudden, 3 hours later, they respond back and they're like, hey, so sorry. My phone had died and I didn't have any way to charge it. Just got your message. And all of a sudden in your mind, you had grown to the point in 3 hours to where your best friend had now become your mortal enemy. And you were like, we're done. Never talk to me again. I'm sick of you. Hate you. And they're like, my phone was dead. But all of a sudden in your mind, you created a scene and a scenario that really didn't happen. And you just let your mind run. I did this one night. We were laying in bed. It was at our old house. And at our old house, it was a 2-story house. And we had a walkout basement. And so up on the main living floor, we had one of those wood patios, decks that had been built. And so it's kind of loud. You can hear, somebody kind of walking up the steps. And you can hear them on the back porch and everything like that. And so Addie slept downstairs. And then the other kids slept upstairs. And so one night I was laying in bed and all of a sudden in the middle of the night, Heather hits me and she goes, Johnny, someone's on the back porch. And I'm like, what? And so then I jumped up, I put my cape on and grabbed my gun. Oh, I got a lot of guns. I just get to choose which gun today am I shooting somebody with? And so I grabbed my gun and I'm like, yes. And so I'm in my underwear and I take off running to the living room. It's like our bedroom and then our living room, and that's where the doors were right there. And so I take off out of our bedroom and I come into the living room, and when I do, I hear them start running down the steps. And I'm like, oh crap, Addie's down there. So I'm like, it's on now. Now my heart is just, like I'm like fight or flight mode. I'm like, it's fight mode for sure. I've seen too many Rambo movies to run now. Like, let's go. And so I take off running downstairs, got my flashlight, I've never taken any training. I'm just really good at it. And so I've got like the flashlight and my gun, holding it at the door like this, And I get to Addie and I like run over and I like grab her. And I'm in my underwear and have a pistol in my hand. She's sound asleep knowing nothing is going on. I grab her, I'm like, Addie, get up now. Grab her, I grab her in this arm. And like, I'm holding her, and she's like, what is going on, Dad? What is happening? And she has she was dead asleep. There's no better way to wake somebody up than just grab them in your underwear with a gun and just start running. Just be like, let's go. Apocalypse, they're eating people now. And, and just start running. And so I grab her, I start running. We get to the stairs. I don't set her down, I just throw her kind of up the stairs. I'm like, get upstairs to your mom now. And so I run out and I get to the back door. I fling the back door open and I'm just standing there, just six pack and all, just ripped. And I'm holding the gun and I'm just like, where are you? Get out here now. And all of a sudden, this little raccoon pops its head up and is looking right at me. And I'm like, golly. So I just, in the middle of the night, go. Sucker didn't mess with me again. But I guess you're not supposed to shoot your gun in city limits. I don't know. But it's interesting how all of a sudden, this little raccoon that just came up to get my dog food, that was sitting on the back porch, making noise, wrestling with another raccoon. All of a sudden, in my mind, I'm thinking, there's 6 armed gunmen outside that are coming in and they want to kill us. They want our money. They don't realize we don't have any, but they want it. And they're trying to get in the house. And so now all of a sudden, I'm ready to go. Your mind will lie to your body and your body will respond to the lie of your mind. Did you know I responded the same way as if that was actually true? My heart, I went and laid back down again and my heart was going, just racing. Because I had created a scene we're fixing to go. We're fixing to fight. It's fixing to be on. Somebody wants my family and that's not happening. And so my heart's just, come to find out it's a dadgum raccoon. But my mind was telling my body something, and my body is responding because my mind had lied to it. And that's what happens a lot of times. We create stories in our mind, and then our body begins to respond to it. We create stories about people all the time. I wonder what they think. I bet they don't like me. I bet they're mad at me. I bet this, I bet that. And what we do is we start walking in that. Bet I'm going to get fired. Bet I'm going to lose my job. Bet, they want somebody else. Bet there's somebody else better than me. And so then what happens is we begin to operate in that lie. And instead of getting better, we begin to get worse. And instead of becoming who we're supposed to be, we begin to believe the lie that's being spoken to us in our own mind. I'm just mean. It's oftentimes what you tell kids. I tell parents this all the time. Don't speak negative things over kids. If you tell your kids to do something, make them do it. So many times kids will come up to me, parents will come up to me with kids and they're just like, say hi to Pastor Johnny. And they'll just be like, and then they'll be like, they're shy. And I'm like, no, they're disobedient. I'm like, make them. Because now what you've done is you've given reason to their behavior. And so what you've got to do is you've got to train them in what you want them to do, not allow them to do what they want to do. Why? Because it's in their mind. Now all of a sudden, every time they come up to somebody, what are they? I'm shy. I'm shy. I'm shy. So I don't have to respond. I don't have to act. I don't have to do anything. I'm shy. And so what we've got to do is we've got to begin to change what we've been speaking over ourselves in our mind. Because oftentimes we overthink what really is true. And we create problems for ourselves that truly don't exist. And so how are we going to fix the noise that's in our mind? The first thing is this: capture it. You have to capture the noise. Here's the thing. You can't control the first thought, but you can control the thoughts after that. I can't control the first one. Heather wakes me up. Somebody's breaking into the house. I can't control that one, but what I can control is, hold on, the dog bowls are rattling. I hear them wrestling. Those are raccoons. I'm going back to sleep. Or I can let just my mind just continue to run how it was running. So you've got to capture it, first of all. You've got to replace it. You can't remove a thought, but you can replace a thought. And so you can't remove but you can replace it. Don't let the thought stay there. Change it. I'm going to begin to focus on Scripture. I'm going to begin to focus on the truth of God's Word. I'm going to begin to worship. I'm going to begin to pray. I'm going to begin to speak life. I'm going to begin to share the gospel with somebody. I'm going to begin to build somebody up rather than tear somebody down. I'm going to change the thing. And so I can't capture it. I've got to capture it. I've got to replace it. But then the last one is this: I have to release it. Cast all your cares on Him because He cares for you. You've got to release it. You've got to let it go. The words that are being spoken over you and to you from your own mind, you've got to let it go. The loudest room that you walk into on a daily basis is in between your ears. What are you letting it say over you every day? I'm not good enough. I'm terrible. I'm worthless. It's awful. Nothing will ever change. I can't do anything good. I can't do anything right. I'm not a good person. I'm a terrible person. My family had this problem. Now I have this problem. My family struggled with this. Now I struggle with this. I'm just an addict. I've just got this issue. I've got this issue. And when you continue to speak that over your mind, that's who you become. That's who you become. And so if you continue to speak it, that's who you're going to become. If you look in the mirror every day and you tell yourself, man, I'm just a terrible person. Nobody likes me. Nobody's going to give me a promotion. Nobody's going to do anything to me. Guess what? You're going to show up, and that's the kind of employee you're going to be. It's the kind of person you're going to be. I'm a terrible wife. I'm a terrible mom. I'm a terrible husband. I'm a terrible father. That's who you're going to be. I'm busy all the time. Guess what? You're going to find things, whether you're busy or not, to do just because you've said it. I'm tired all the time. Guess what? You're going to walk around and you're going to be tired all the time. And so if you will begin to change the way that you talk, what's in here, and change that, and begin to capture it, begin to replace it, and begin to release it, those things will change. But you've got to change what's being spoken over you. Thought number 2, pay attention. It says, you have eyes, can't you see? You have ears, can't you hear? And so Jesus right here is sitting there and He's like, guys, listen, you've seen it. You've heard it. How? How have you forgotten it so quickly? Like it was right, and pay attention to what's going on. And so here's the thing. God often speaks in whispers, not in loud fireworks. God often, when God is communicating to you and I, God often communicates in a whisper. We look for the neon lights. We look for the flashing lights. God, give me a sign. God, if you want me to do this, then make the stars fall from the sky tonight when I'm sitting outside. God, if you want me to do this, then have 2 moons appear tonight. And we just ask for these crazy, ridiculous things from God, and God's going, hold on, I already gave you the answer, but you weren't listening. See, the problem was God was speaking, but the disciples were distracted. They weren't paying attention. They weren't listening to what He was saying. God was giving them a warning, but the problem was they were too distracted to catch the warning that God was giving. There was a man, and he was driving, and his GPS said, turn right. And he began to look, and he began to think, was obviously a man, not a woman, because he was like, I'm not sure I trust this GPS. I think I know where to go. So he's like, I'm going to go straight. And so he kept going straight, and about 60 seconds later, guess what came up on the GPS? Rerouting. 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 I think part of us, a lot of us, we live a spiritual rerouting route all the time. God taps us on the shoulder and goes, hey, take a right. I think this is a better route. I think this is a better way. Hey, take a right. You just missed it. Rerouting. Hey, take a right. You miss it again. And you're like, but God, there were no signs in front of me. God, I didn't see the neon sign that you put. You could have written it out in the clouds, and it could have said exactly what I needed it to do. And God says, no, I told you. And a lot of us, what's happening is we are waiting on God, but in reality, God is really waiting on us because he's already told us what to do. We sit back and we go, well, I'm just waiting on God. And God's going, no, you're not. I already spoke. You just weren't paying attention. You didn't listen. Listen. Because I'm not screaming at you. I'm not yelling at you. And so here's the thing. Delayed obedience is often ignored direction. You know the light on the car that gives you a warning that there's an engine problem? Something comes up and it pops up, and right there on the dash, that little light pops up in your car. The first time that light pops up, it's always like, oh, I might need to get that fixed. I need to get that looked at. But then the next day you get in the car and you're like, it was fine yesterday. It'll be fine today. Then about a week goes by and you kind of see that light and you're just like, it's been running so far. I don't need to do anything. Month goes by, you get in the car. You don't even pay attention to the light anymore. You don't even look at the light. The light's right there. It's giving the warning. It's telling you exactly what you need to do. But the problem is you have become hard to what that light is supposed to tell you and supposed to the direction and the instruction that it's giving you. You've ignored it. And so now you've become callous to that light. So now you get in the car and you think, I don't need to do anything because the light told me I needed to do something. But I've been driving it for a month now and nothing's happened. So it's fine. No big deal. And the car's going, no, there's a problem. We need to get this fixed. I'm fixing to break. It's fixing to blow up. Please fix this. And it's flashing at you and you look at it, and the longer it goes, the easier it is to ignore. It's the same thing with the voice of God. You hear the voice of God, but you don't like what the voice of God is saying. You don't like what he's asking you to do. You don't like the direction that he's going to lead you. So you ignore it. And then the interesting thing is, it gets easier and easier and easier to ignore the voice of God. That flashing light. Not a big deal. I don't need to listen to God. I don't need to be obedient. I know he told me he wants me to share the gospel with my neighbor, but I'm busy. I just don't have an opportunity. I can't. And that light's just flashing. I know he wants me to share the gospel at work. I know he wants me to apologize to my wife. I just can't. I know he wants me to get my family up and begin to have a morning Bible study with them. I know that's what he's placed on my heart. I just can't. I know he's told us he wants us to have family dinner so that we can sit around and really just have good conversation as a family. I just can't. And that light's flashing, and all of a sudden it gets easier and easier and easier to ignore the warning that God is placing in front of you and the instruction that God has given you because you have ignored it for so long. You don't even see it. You don't even hear it. And so now you've become callous. You've become calloused and deaf to the voice of God rather than obedient to what God wants to do. And so we've got to be really, really careful. And we've got to listen to the voice of God because God's not going to scream. God's going to whisper. And the thing is, it was Elijah in 1 Kings chapter 19. Elijah was waiting for God and listening for God, and all of a sudden, this massive windstorm came by. And he goes out and he's looking for God, but God wasn't in the wind. And then all of a sudden, this earthquake takes place. And he goes out and he's looking for God. God wasn't in the earthquake. And then a fire takes place. And he wasn't in the fire. God was in the whisper. Just a still, quiet voice. But here's the thing. There is a cost for not listening. There is a cost for ignoring the warning light. There is a cost when you get in your car every single time and that light is flashing and you ignore it. There's a cost. There was a cost, and Samson shows us the cost. See, all of a sudden in Judges 16 verse 20 it says, Delilah said, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson." And he woke up from his sleep and he said, "I will go out as I have the other times and shake free." But then here's the part that was different. It says, "But he did not know that the Lord had departed from him." He ignored it. 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 And then all of a sudden, it ended up costing him, ultimately his life, because he ignored it. God warned him. God warned him. God warned him. God warned him. And guess what? His strength, his power, his ability caused him to ignore what God was telling him to do. I'm good enough. I'll whip them. I'm good. I can handle them. I don't need to listen to God. God, every time you tell me not to do this, but every time I get up and I whip all of them, and it's fine. It's not a big deal, God. The flashing light, God, it's not a big deal. And God's going, Samson, you better quit. You better stop. This isn't who I created you to be. This isn't who I called you to be. This isn't the purpose that I have for you. You better stop. It's going to end badly. You better stop. You better stop. And then one day the Bible says, he woke up. He did not know that the Lord had left. God's hand of blessing, hand of protection, hand of favor, gone. There's a cost to not listening. There's a cost to not heeding the instructions, heeding the warning light of God. Thought number 3, remember what God has done. Jesus looks at the disciples, and in verse 18, he said, "Don't you remember? Don't you remember?" And he said, "When I fed 5,000 people, how many baskets were left over?" And they said 12. And he said, "When I fed 4,000, how many baskets were left over?" He said 7. He said, "You still don't understand? You still don't remember? You still don't? Like, why are we having this conversation? Why are you in the boat worried about bread when I've just proven to you what I can do? When you have what? You have eyes. You have ears. You've seen, you felt the weight of those baskets. You've had to carry them off. And now we're back to the same spot just a little while later? How do you not remember?" See, the interesting thing to me is it is easier for us to remember problems rather than promises. It's a lot easier for us to remember problems. Man, I remember when this happened. I remember when this struggle took place. I remember when he wasn't nice to me. I remember when she wasn't nice to me. I remember when the kids were awful. I remember when we didn't have anything. I remember when life was just miserable. I remember when everything was falling apart. I remember when we were sick. I remember when we couldn't, afford groceries. I remember when we were in the hospital. I remember when the kids were in the hospital. I remember all these problems, but the problem is we don't remember the promises. How many of us have really written down what God has done? Because this is what happens. The interesting thing is Joshua stacked memorial stones so that people would remember the goodness of God. He didn't want people to forget. And so in Joshua 4, 6 and 7, it says, "We will use these stones to build a memorial. In the future, children will ask, 'What do these stones mean?' And he says, 'You can tell them. They are a reminder to us that the Jordan River stopped flowing when the Ark of the Covenant crossed. These stones will stand as a memorial among the people of Israel forever. They'll stand forever. When people come by these stones, guess what they're going to do? They're going to begin to ask questions. Hey, why are these stones right here? And you get to look and you get to go, man, you'll never believe what happened here. God is so faithful. And I want you to know, if God was faithful then he'll be faithful today. That's what these stones represent. The Ark of the Covenant was coming and it was crossing the Jordan River. And before it crossed, when they stepped in, the water parted. And they went across on dry ground. And what Joshua wanted to do is Joshua wanted to remind people of the power and the presence of God. And so he set up these stones so that I can tell you, and now you can tell your grandchildren, that if God can do it then, God will still do it now. And God will do it in the future. Because he is the same God today, yesterday, today, and forever. And he will be that God for you. Some of your kids need to download some faith inside of them because they're looking at the stones of your life. Some of your kids need to download that. Here's what they're downloading from you: fear, anxiety, worry, problems. Why? Because they just constantly look at you. Every day's a problem. Every day's a struggle. Every day's bad. Every day's trouble. Every day's depressing. So guess what? They're downloading that into their life, and that's who they're becoming. Watch your kids. Listen to your kids. Because who they are, what they say, how they respond is you. Because oftentimes it's not taught, it's caught. And so it's the way you live that matters, not necessarily what you say. My dad used to say, hey, do what I say, not what I do. Do what I say, not what I do. I'm going to mess up. You just do what I say. And so what we need to do is we need to realize that what's going to happen is they're going to follow how we lead, not how we speak. Because what I say can be really good, but the way I live may not. And so what you've got to do is you've got to download into your kids some faith. When was the last time you just sat down and you just said, look at how good God's been? Hey, can I tell you this? In our phone, we have a family group chat. And in our family group chat, it's labeled, "We do hard things." That's our family group chat. Just to remind the kids, life is not always going to be easy. Life is not always going to be just candy and roses, hugs and kisses. It's not always there's going to be hard times. But guess what? We're built for the hard times, and we do hard things. We don't crumble under hard things. We don't step away from hard things. We don't back down from hard things. Just because it's a struggle doesn't mean God's not in it. And so we tell them stories. Hey, guess what? We started the church. We were obedient. God said start the church. So guess what we did? We started the church. And guess, in your mind, what would you think? God says, hey, I want you to start a church so that you can help people and tell people about who Jesus is, and you can see people saved. Don't you think God from heaven is just going to go, hey, here's blessings and everything you need, and it's just going to just drop on us and just be like, oh, this is awesome. I love starting a church. Greatest thing ever. But I look and I tell them, listen, we started the church, but the problem is this. It was the hardest thing we've ever done. It was the greatest struggles we've ever been through in the entire life. We almost lost our last child. I mean, he almost died literally within the first couple months of starting the church. He's on a ventilator in the hospital for a week, like not doing well at all. The first Easter service, him and Heather aren't even there. Like you would think, God, this is our first Easter service. This is going to be awesome. No, our son is in the hospital on a ventilator. Not only that, finances were never good. We've never been a church with a ton of money. And so we have to be very wise in how we use and operate. And when we started, 10 out of the first 24 months, we didn't make enough money in order for us to get paid. Almost a whole year out of the first 2 years, we didn't get paid. So we had to take everything out of savings. When that ran out, guess what we had to do? Then we dipped into retirement and we dumped that entire thing. And literally, when we got the last penny out of that, from that moment on, God has always provided, and we have never missed a paycheck since, ever. But it took everything out of us in order to get to that spot. It's not always easy. It's not always roses. It's not always just this, birthday celebration, this cake and ice cream. And that's what I tell the kid. But we we trust God in spite of that. And so here's the thing. We tell them these stories so that then when they begin to walk through something, guess what? Oh, my mom and dad have already been there. We got a stone that proves it. That in spite of how difficult it is, God is faithful and God will show up. God will provide. God will get through. I don't know how. I don't know when. I don't know what it's going to look like. But I know this, God's going to show up and God's going to provide because I have the stone to remember. Because I know, because I've been told the stories. Some of you need to start sitting down with your family and start telling the stories of what God's done. Some of you need to sit down this afternoon and just start going down the list. God, remind me. Remind me of your faithfulness. Remind me of your goodness. Remind me of those times that you showed up. I want to get them written down so that I can pass them on. Joshua didn't put those stones up for God. God didn't need the stones to remember. Joshua put those stones up for the people so that they never forget the goodness and the faithfulness of God. You've got to begin to tell your kids about the goodness and the faithfulness of God. Hey, listen, when we got married, we weren't Christians. And so we didn't chase after Jesus. And our marriage almost fell apart. But man, because of the grace and the faithfulness of God, man, we're still together. And this is the goodness of God. Hey, we hit some rocky times and we didn't like each other. But God showed up. And now our marriage is better than it's ever been. There's some stones right there. Hey, our kids ran from God. And they didn't choose the right thing all the time. And they made poor decisions. But listen, we stayed on our knees. We stayed prayed up. We continued to push them in the right direction. We continue to hold them accountable in their relationship with the Lord. And now God has shown up and God has made a difference in their life. We've got some stones that we can show people. Maybe what you need to do is write some stones down and begin to say, hey, here's the stones in my life. Here's the stones of God's faithfulness. How do I know he'll do it for you? Because he's done it for me. Heather's in Oklahoma City right now with her family. Her grandpa, who's 88, has been slowly declining, and this morning at 6:30 he passed away. And so she's down there with the family. And the interesting thing is, as we were worshiping, I was just thinking, I wonder what his worship experience is like in heaven this morning for the first time. Can you imagine? He gets to worship at the feet of Jesus this morning. In the presence of Jesus. How those songs change. My prayer was then like, God, I don't want to be the worship in heaven to be different than the worship that I give you now. I don't want it to change. I want to get to heaven and it just continues. Not it surprises me. But the thing is now, he's gone. He's not coming back. 88, lived an incredible life. And all we have left are memories to remember. What are your kids going to remember you for? What's your wife going to remember you for? What's your husband going to remember you for? What are the stones that you're building up? Some of you are building stones and you're like, man, my dad always took us to the lake. We never went to the church. We always went to the lake. My dad was never home because he just worked so hard, just trying to make more money, just wanted to get more things. My mom, she was always busy doing something. She was always running around, trying to get us involved in this thing and that thing, running us over here, running us over there. And those are the stones that your kids are going to bring up and lay right in front of you and go, that's what I remember. Or are they going to go, man, I remember getting up and seeing my dad on his knees praying. I remember my mom sitting in her chair with her Bible open, reading. I remember sitting around as a family having a Bible study. I remember when things got hard, they worshiped. I remember. Maybe you need to build some stones of faith for your family. Will you pray? Today, I don't know what it is, but maybe for you, what you need to do is you just need to not be distracted. Don't lose the battle of the mind. Don't get worn out because you're mentally tired. You're mentally exhausted. Maybe what you need to do is you just need to pay attention and listen to the voice of God. Hear him as he's whispering to you. Or maybe you just need to remember. Remember the faithfulness of God. Remember the goodness of God. Remember how he showed up. Remember when you felt all alone, but yet you felt the presence of God. And so today what we want to do is, this is just a place that we can come and we can kneel and we can move to just say, God, I'm not going to stay in my seat, but I want to move. I want to make some changes. And the church is never a place to embarrass people, but it is a place to get bold for God. And so maybe today you're sitting here and you're just saying, Pastor, I don't have a relationship with Jesus, but I want one. I don't have a stone to remember, but I want to start my first one today. I want my first stone. Your first stone is always the stone of your salvation. I want that first stone. And so maybe today, that's what you need to do. Give your life to Jesus. And so if that's you with nobody looking around, would you just lift your hand right now? Just let me see it. I need to get saved today. I need that stone. And maybe today, it's just don't be distracted. Listen to the voice of God and remember. And so during this time, we're going to have some prayer team down here. If you want to pray with them, you can. Or if you just want to pray by yourself. But don't leave the same place you walked in as. Let's stand to our feet. God, we love you. God, help us remember your faithfulness. Help us not to be distracted. Help us to hear your voice. In Jesus' name, amen.